The story takes place in a desolate little town where she is the most beautiful woman there and also a product with a price tag, bought and passed around by men. Countless men are willing to empty their pockets just to spend one night with her in this dark room. And because too many customers line up every day, the brothel simply uses a lottery to decide who gets to be the lucky one each night. That night, the man who gets picked is a little different because when the door opens and a slightly awkward man named Mike walks in, he's so nervous he can barely move, yet still blurts out that he won't do anything tonight and that he only came because he wants to marry her. Angel just laughs and tells him that he's the fifth man this week who has proposed to her. Because she's heard the same lines thousands of times, and in her eyes men always come for the same reason, and she thinks Mike is no exception, so she simply tells him to leave, but he insists he'll come back. The next night, Mike actually comes back again, and this time he pays double, yet still refuses to touch her, choosing instead to sit at the edge of the bed and gently ask if she really plans to stay trapped here for the rest of her life. To which Angel replies that it's none of his business, even though Mike has been deeply drawn to her since the first moment he saw her on the street. He made up his mind to take her away from this place. But before he can finish talking, the handler knocks on the door to announce that time is up, and as Mike stands to leave, Angel simply tells him that it was nice talking to him. On his way home, his friend tells him he's being foolish and that no woman is worth that much gold. But Mike knows exactly what he wants because he only wants to be with Angel. At dinner, the other girls talk about Mike, the handsome man, and ask Angel if she really doesn't care about him. But Angel says, "He's yours. You'd be doing me a favor." And when Mike arrives at the tavern, one of the girls stops him, saying Angel sent her to take over, which hurts him, but he still refuses firmly and goes straight to Angel's room. When Mike questions her, Angel only says he shouldn't waste his time on someone like her. But Mike makes it clear this is his last attempt because he wants her to leave this place with him. And facing those genuine and stubborn eyes, Angel feels her heart tremble for the first time as she asks for his name. And when he softly says, "Mike," she tries to kiss him, but he refuses because he wants to wait until she actually likes him. Angel instinctively rejects him, saying she feels nothing for him and that he's just a poor farmer. And Mike admits he is before turning to leave. Yet when he truly walks away, Angel's heart becomes chaotic for the first time because she has always longed for a normal life, and Mike appears like a spark lighting up ashes. The next day, she finally takes that step by going to Madame Duchess and asking a very dangerous question: how much it would cost if she wanted to leave, making her intention unmistakable because she wants to buy her freedom. But those words hit Duchess's deepest nerve, since in her eyes Angel is a gold mine that makes money on its own, and she will never let her go. To destroy Angel's hope completely, Duchess orders her men to teach her a lesson. And although they throw Angel violently onto the floor, she still mocks them by saying the man is nothing but the madam's dog, which enrages him and leads to a night where her screams echo through the hellish place ironically called Paradise Town. At the same time, Mike suddenly jolts awake from his sleep as if hearing someone crying for help from far away. And when he finally rushes back to Paradise Town, he finds a woman who has been beaten so badly she is almost unrecognizable. Mike forces down his rage and faces Duchess with only one sentence: that today he is taking Angel away. But the madam coldly replies that Angel is not going anywhere until she pays back every last cent she owes. Mike immediately throws down every coin he has to settle the debt, then turns to Angel and asks her once again if she will marry him. And when she nods, the other girls cheer for her. On the road leaving Paradise Town, sunlight slips through the leaves like it is laying a path toward a real home. And Mike finally brings her back to his farm, where he carefully prepares a place for her, gives her his late sister's clothes, and tells her to rest without fear because she is not a slave and never will be. Angel takes off the ring on her finger and tries to hand it back to him, but Mike tells her it belonged to his mother, which shocks her because she cannot believe he would give something so precious to her. Yet she still refuses to trust him and keeps throwing cold words at him until the moment her wounds begin to heal, when she sneaks away while he is not home. When Mike returns and sees the ring on the table, he knows she is gone, but also knows she cannot have gone far, so he immediately rides out to search for her. And at a bend in the road, they meet again, where Angel slaps him and says he does not own her, expecting him to strike back. But instead, he simply hands her water, gives her a warm cloak, and tells her that 19 miles ahead Duchess is waiting, while only 1 mile behind is the way home, before riding off and leaving her with the choice. Watching his back disappear, Angel does not realize her long frozen heart is slowly melting. And Mike simply waits quietly at home as if he always knew she would come back, until Angel walks in without a word, sits down, and lets him bring her food and warm water so he can gently wash her tired feet. She finally asks why he is doing all this, and he answers that sometimes walking 1 mile is harder than walking 20, and this time she understands. That night, Angel quietly asks him to brush her hair and tries to thank him in the only way she has ever known. But Mike refuses because he will not let her force herself just to please him, and from that moment on she stays on the farm, though she never once sees herself as a wife, because in her mind only when her debt is fully paid can she truly walk away. Mike never pressures her for anything because he believes that one day all of this will change little by little in its own time. During her days on the farm, he teaches her how to gather eggs and how to plant new seedlings in the garden, and when there is nothing urgent to do, they go fishing together, living a quiet kind of peace most people can only dream about. And in that gentle stretch of time, Mike becomes the one streak of color in her gray world, bringing light back into her life little by little. When the day winds down, Angel invites him to lie beside her, saying it is something she owes him, but Mike once again gently refuses and uses the excuse of taking the dog out just so he can wade into the lake and cool himself down, choosing self-control even when it hurts, while she watches from afar with a soft smile growing brighter on her face. At dawn, Mike brings her up a small hill where the sunrise paints the horizon gold and the clouds glow warm around them, and they stand there quietly like a portrait as he says this is the life. He wants to give her a world filled with color, warmth, beauty, and light, and in that moment the glow he has been patiently pouring into her finally clears the shadows inside her heart. She begins to truly accept him and slowly treats the farm as her second home, but peace never lasts because Mike's brother-in-law, Paul, arrives, and the instant he sees her he knows exactly who she is, and though he acts normal in front of others, he soon corners Mike, privately insisting that he could never accept a man like him marrying a woman like that. When Paul sneers and asks what Mike thinks their mother would say about him marrying someone he calls trash, Mike punches him because he cannot tolerate anyone degrading her, and if he has already chosen to accept her as his wife, then her past no longer matters to him, even though Paul refuses to understand. While Mike is away, Paul goes straight to Angel and tells her Mike deserves a respectable woman, not someone like her, and every word pushes her back toward the darkness she fought so hard to escape, and after a long night of silent struggle, she finally decides to leave. She finds Paul and tells him her decision, and he agrees a little too easily, only to reveal his true nature on the road when he forces her to pay a price, treating her as if she were nothing more than something to be used. And when the carriage nears the city gates, he shoves her out so no one will see them together. Angel turns and tells him that she has never pretended to be anything she is not, but he has taken Mike's money, his wagon, his horse, and now even tried to take his wife, and still has the nerve to call himself Mike's brother before she walks away without looking back. Returns to Paradise Town to reclaim the gold she earned, only to learn the place has already burned down, her sisters are dead, and Duchess has nothing left as Angel is dragged into a saloon by a stranger and forced back into the life she once fought so desperately to escape. Meanwhile, Mike finally pieced together the whole truth from Paul's own mouth. In a burst of rage, he kicked Paul out of his farm without hesitation. He then sprinted all the way back to Heaven Town, desperate to find her again. He stormed into that room in front of everyone, determined to take her away. The guards tried to block him, but Mike took them down within seconds. On the way back to the farm, neither of them said a single word. Then Angie finally asked, "Do you know what Paul did to me?" Mike clearly knew everything, and she asked again, "Why didn't you leave me where I belonged?" "Because I love you," he answered. Angie froze, unable to say anything in return. That night, she saw Mike hiding alone in the stable, quietly crying like a wounded child. In those muffled sobs were all his pain, heartbreak, and the hurt he carried. She knew, deep down, that all of this was something she had caused. To make herself feel a little cleaner, she stepped into the icy lake and scrubbed her skin hard, as if she could wash away every trace of her past. Mike wrapped a coat around her and comforted her gently until her breathing steadied. Angie never spoke about her past, and Mike never asked about the pain she kept buried in her heart. When she was still a child, the only person in her life was her mother, and it wasn't until she was 8 that she met her father for the first time, a married man who had secretly fathered her. To his family, she was nothing but an unwanted child, and eventually she and her mother were thrown out together. With no income and nowhere to go, her mother was left with only one way to keep them alive in those harsh times. The life of selling herself day after day drained her mother completely until sickness took over and there was no money for a doctor. Every day little Angie prayed for her mother to recover, but fate had never once shown them mercy, and her mother ultimately slipped away. After losing the only person who ever protected her, Angie was sold to a twisted duke who trained her into something meant only to entertain others. She stopped being treated as a person and became a body taught to please. At 18, fate struck cruelly again when she crossed paths with her father once more, and this time she chose not to recognize him. She brought him into her room and let everything unfold, and when he realized the truth, shame crushed him so completely that he took his own life on the spot. In the chaos, Angie escaped and boarded a ship bound for Europe, believing her nightmare had finally ended, not knowing it was only leading to another kind of torment. Two women robbed her of all her money and sold her to Heaven Town, where over time she went numb and became a machine built only to earn. After that, they dared to dream of a new life together, though destiny never seemed willing to let her go. On the road, they met a wandering family, and the woman was heavily pregnant, so Mike took them in out of kindness. A few days later, she gave birth to a baby boy on the farm, and to show their gratitude, they gave the child Mike's last name. Watching Mike hold that tiny newborn, Angie felt a bitter ache she could not describe because she knew he longed for something only a wife could give, a child of their own. But that was something she could never give him again. After much thought, she finally told him the truth. She had once been pregnant, but the Duke never allowed such things to happen. He had forced a doctor to end the pregnancy, and from that day on she could no longer become a mother. Mike was shocked at first, but soon grew calm and simply told her that he loved her and nothing could change that. Yet precisely because he loved her so unconditionally, the guilt inside her grew heavier instead of lighter. She began noticing how gentle and kind the wandering woman was, and how perfectly she fit the image of a proper wife. And so Angie made her final decision, to let him go. One morning, she prepared a heartfelt breakfast for Mike and invited him to watch the sunrise on the hill. Every detail of that morning felt like a silent farewell. On the way back, she entrusted a letter and a ring to the wandering girl, asking her to deliver them to Mike. Then she climbed into a carriage and left the farm. This time, Mike did not chase after her. He understood that truly healing wounds accumulated over years required letting her first learn how to reconnect with the world and herself. Angie arrived in San Francisco. There, she found work as a chef. But fate seemed determined to test her once more. The Duke who had once bought her discovered her whereabouts. Late at night, he set the restaurant on fire. The next day, under his threats, Angie had no choice but to leave with him. She was taken to the Duke's private castle. As soon as she entered, she saw a little girl lying on the bed. The child reminded her vividly of herself at that age. Fear surged like a tide, almost drowning her in memories. In front of the Duke, she became the puppet once more, powerless to resist. From the next room, the girl's cries grew louder, pushing her closer to the edge. Before she could think further, she was roughly dressed and pushed onto the stage. Amid the noisy cheers from the audience, she felt her mother's presence. "Tell them the truth, dear," a voice seemed to whisper. This time, she would not remain silent. She straightened her back and, in full view of everyone, began to reveal the Duke's crimes, word by word. "The Duke has a thing for little girls. He bought me when I was 8. I escaped at 17, but he found me again and dragged me back here." "Nonsense. All lies," the Duke shouted, his eyes red with anger as he realized the situation had spun out of control. He hurriedly dragged her back to her room, intending to silence her permanently. A man burst in and rescued her. Angie seized the opportunity to escape. She did not forget to free the 2 little girls who had been locked away. When she appeared in the hall with the children, the entire atmosphere changed instantly. The audience erupted in anger, shouting to hang the Duke. Angie, holding the children, fled the scene in a panic. The people were determined not to let the villain escape and executed the fleeing Duke. Time passed quietly, and 3 years went by. One day, Paul caught sight of a familiar figure on the street. Unsure at first, he followed the person all the way to a school. After asking around, he finally confirmed this was Angie. Now, she was teaching and working here, protecting more children in her own way. Seeing her today, Paul told her about Mike's life over the years. From the day she left, Mike had been completely alone. He did not end up with the girl she had hoped for, nor did he marry anyone else. He simply lived day by day, waiting for someone he didn't even know would return. Angie had never imagined he was still waiting for her, but she told Paul to go back and say she was gone so Mike could start a new life. Paul admitted he had misunderstood her and asked for her forgiveness. Before leaving, Paul once again invited Angie to go away with him. At that moment, Mike was working in the fields as usual. Suddenly, he turned and looked into the distance. There she stood, the woman who had appeared countless times in his dreams, as if walking straight out of his memories, now stood before him. 3 separations had led to this long-awaited reunion. She walked up to him and said the words, "My real name is Sarah. I never told anyone because it was the only thing no one could take from me. I came here to tell you, I love you." A gentle breeze swept across the fields, and the sound of birds echoed in the distance. "Welcome home. I've always loved you," Mike whispered softly. Under the rising sun, true love finally took root. After a long, dark night, their lives were once again illuminated by hope.